Can you hear me good? Okay, good.
Hear him well would be the proper English.
Thank you, Council. Wow, really quieted the room up. I'm sorry about that. We have 1 minute left. That last minute's always the longest. Okay. Good evening. The Charter Township of Plymouth Board of Trustees regular meeting and swearing in ceremony for Chief Itzel will come to order. Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Stewart.
Here?
Trustee Monahan.
Here.
Trustee Kermy.
Here.
Clerk Vorba here. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Here.
Supervisor Heising.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, Chief Itzel, why don't you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chief, if you could come forward, we will at this time have your formal swearing in ceremony. And I'm going to join you too, so hold on.
We have good protection here tonight. Chief.
As former Chief Tidrington would have said, you were in the safest place in Plymouth Township.
If you'd please raise your right hand and repeat after me.
I, James Harrington Itzel Jr.,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
the laws, ordinances, and policies
the laws, ordinances, and policies
of the Charter Township of Plymouth.
of the Charter Township of Plymouth.
I will faithfully perform the duties
I will faithfully perform the duties
of Police Chief of the Charter Township of Plymouth, Michigan,
of Police Chief of the Charter Township of Plymouth, Michigan,
being ever mindful
being ever mindful
that my service
that my service
is a reflection on the Township of Plymouth.
that my service is a reflection of the Township of Plymouth.
I will discharge these duties
I will discharge these duties
according to the best of my abilities,
according to the best of my abilities.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Chief.
We can do photos out in the hallway as well.
Oh, yeah. Good job.
Okay, very good. Chief, you just want to...
How about immediate
Can we just
family?
introduce the immediate family again? We do everybody. Yes, thank you. So, start with my wife Jackie, who's here. Grace and my son Jimmy. My dad, Jimmy, who's retired from the Detroit Police Department. And my mother Ann, who's retired from Ford Motor Company. I have a lot of friends and family that are here today, so this is for law enforcement. Any swearing in ceremony is very important, but having all of you here is very important to me, and the men and women in my department are here as well, so I appreciate them being here as well. So, thank you. Well, how can we top that tonight? We're going to try. Item D is a presentation of proclamation honoring retired Police Chief Tom Tidrington, but former Chief Tidrington is retired, and he's up north, and he's enjoying
I was
himself.
going to say probably Crystal Lake.
How do you like that? So we are going to make sure that he gets his proclamation at the appropriate time. So Chief Tidrington, if you're watching us tonight, the proclamation is in the mail. My mic is still a little hot right now, so.
Too hot?
Yeah, getting too much feedback. Okay. Let's use Gary Heitman as my tester. Is that good? Can you hear me? Okay, good. I feel it sounds better here too.
Better?
Yeah. If anybody wants to leave at this point, you will not hurt our feelings, we understand.
As the room half empties?
It's a great time for photos.
Good to see you again.
Oh, that was like 70% of the people.
It's an extended family there.
Good to see you again.
Okay. All right, we're going to continue with the agenda. I need a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I approve the agenda for Tuesday, May 10th, 2022.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, approval of the consent agenda. Any comments or questions on
Yes,
anything?
I have a
Yes,
lot
go
of
ahead.
items I'd like to be taken off
Okay.
to discuss. Tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
B, C, E, F, G, H, I.
Okay.
What?
Everything pretty much.
Yeah,
except
almost
for-
everything.
Except for
A and D.
Right.
All right, so let's approve the consent agenda minus those items.
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda for Tuesday, May 10th, 2022,
Okay,
as
motion-
amended.
Motion's made by Clerk Vorba. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so let's move on to item F2B. This is the Inn at St. John's PUD amendment.
All right.
Comments or questions?
This is the second amendment from what I recall. Is that right?
I believe so, yes.
There should be a change log in this because we won't be able to track this in 5 years or 2 years or even 1 year. So I think we should hold off on it. Also, we need to watch them carefully. We had the largest harvesting of trees in a long time from there, and they skirted the tree ordinance.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, it
No,
was
they didn't.
it's a new project. It
They're
wasn't just.
they're not developing a residential area.
All right, anyway, they should have a change log in here so we can track it. I don't see anything underlined in here, what's added or new, unless I missed it. It's not the way to track documents.
Okay.
Change log.
Any other
So,
questions? Well, we're just on F2B right now.
okay, so now we're on FC.
Well, are we going to do
You should do them
these-
one at a time.
I think we have to do these each one at a time.
Okay, so what do you want to do? You're going to,
I move to approve the Inn at St. John's PUD Amendment Pump House Resolution 22-06-14-33. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Clerk Vorba. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Trustee Dorchevitz. Supervisor, I promoted you again. Treasurer. That's 6 years of calling him
10
trustees.
years.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
no,
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item FC is Police Department Carpet and Painting Homeland Security Task Force Window Coating Projects. Deputy Chief Kudra. And just to give us a short explanation on this one. Pardon me?
Yes.
Is it on?
Yes, it's on.
Okay, so the police department is looking to install new carpet and repaint about half of the police department. The carpeting that we have in there currently, as well as the paint on the walls is original, similar to in the building, which is going on about 15 years now. Additionally, we are looking to install a tinted window coating on the Homeland Security officers.
so why are we spending capital for the very wealthy federal government? Can't they do it?
I think their position is to start building.
Yeah, but when you lease a building, you can make capital improvements as the leaseholder. That happens a lot. I mean, in fact, that's generally the person who takes care of the building when you lease a building. and they're getting it free. It's like, I don't understand why.
No, they're paying the lease. They're paying
How
us
much are they
rent.
paying?
5,000.
5,000?
All right, well, so,
And we're using state forfeiture now, state forfeiture as well.
I know, it's
And an
not our
improve-
money,
And
but,
it's an improvement to the building that we are still going to own, so.
all right.
Okay, any other questions from the board on this one? I need a motion at some point.
Mr. Supervisor,
Clerk.
I move for the approval of the Police Department Carpet and Painting Homeland Security Task Force and Window Coating, Resolution 2022-06-1434.
Okay, let me just take a quick look at this. This is item F2C.
Yes.
Now, I'm looking at the motion. I think that is something that you're going to have to restate,
Okay,
because we are using drug forfeiture money, and I know that
Okay.
we have to have a very particular ordinance, motion for that one.
one moment, thank you. I move for the approval of Resolution 2022-06-1434, authorizing the Plymouth Township Police Department to purchase and install new carpet in the records section of the Administrative Detective Bureau, repaint those areas and the police department lobby, and have a tinted window coating applied to the Homeland Security Task Force offices located at the DPW building for a total cost not to exceed $40,000 from the State Drug Law Enforcement Fund Land and Building Repairs account, to authorize the finance director to appropriate funds balance in the amount of $40,000 to the State Drug Law Enforcement Fund and pay for the projects.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorva. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Trustee Monahan. Please take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes,
Clerk Borba, yes. Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Next up is, we're going to skip item D, that's been approved. Item E is the appointment of Benjamin Ike to the Historic District Commission. Benjamin is here with us tonight. Anybody have any comments or questions for Benjamin?
so I'm bringing up these appointments because I want to better understand what their private property rights feeling is, their philosophy, and also where their leanings are. I want to make sure that we have a balance of Democrats and Republicans. I think we've been appointing a lot of Democrats over the last couple of years, so we do need a balance. So let's hear a little bit about what these people think. Have them come up and talk to us a little bit.
Benjamin, you want to come up?
Yeah, too.
Please
Right
do,
up,
just
right
come
here.
right over here. You're a tall guy, so just make sure that we can get you in the microphone there.
Duck for every door and sneak shooter, just to really make sure.
Yeah.
Oh boy, I have to like kind of hunker down here.
Can he lift it up?
It was a back day in the gym, so can I just lift? Okay.
Yeah, now you're probably too loud, so.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go.
good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ben Ike, and I'm a resident of Plymouth Township here, and delighted to be considered for appointment to the Historic District Commission. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, what is your feeling on private property rights?
On private property rights?
Yeah.
I'm joining the Historic Commission because I'm fascinated by history. So I work at Wayne State's Law School. I specialize in legislative oversight. In fact, coming up here on Friday, I'm going to be in D.C. in the Senate office building, the Russell, where they're going to be commemorating the 50th anniversary of the break-in at Watergate. And I'll be able to go, and I'm really looking forward to it, to get a chance to be able to learn from so many people of all these different chapters in history. And while I appreciate being a part of all of that, we have great history here in our community. And I just want the opportunity to be able to learn more, to be able to write, to be able to share all the great stories we have here. I'd be happy to discuss this further with you, thinking about private property rights. I'd be very curious to hear your thoughts about this as well. I admit I have not found sort of that being like the main drive of what drove me to do the Historic Commission.
Well, historic commissions do have some control over private property by telling you what to do with
Yes.
your property. So my philosophy on private property rights is what's in the U.S. Constitution.
Okay.
So it's pretty simple. So I wanted to know what yours were.
Oh, do you mind elaborating? Constitution's a lengthy document here, so is there a certain spot that you're
No, I don't
seeking
have the
particularly?
particular sentence, but
Okay.
private property rights are a tenet of the Constitution, and I wanted to, Watergate has nothing to do with private property rights, but anyway. So you don't want to expound anymore is what you're saying.
I'm happy to have a discussion further with you at any time.
Well, you're being approved tonight, so, all right. Answer is, I wish you could give a better answer, but
Okay.
it's not okay, but all right. Let's go to next. So,
Can I answer the second part of
that
what you
it?
said before you brought me up?
pardon?
Do you mind if I answer the second part of what you kind of discussed about sort of the balance concern?
Yeah, balance of political parties.
Okay. Well, prior to my work at the law school, I've worked in 3 Republican offices. I've worked in the Michigan House for 4 years, and I've also worked in Congress for Congressman John Molinar.
And what party is he in?
Republican, Michigan 4.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So let me, are you done? Are you all set?
Yeah,
Okay, I mean, let me just make a couple comments, because first of all, the historic district ordinance for Plymouth Township is voluntary. It does not mandate, the Historic District Commission does not mandate projects on private property owners, number one. It's voluntary. Number two, it is nonpartisan. There is no partisan requirement for any of our boards and commissions in Plymouth Township, with the exception of the Board of Trustees, and that is required by state law. So I just want to state that for the record.
right, you're right, but typically, we like to have a balance.
I want good people, so.
Thank you.
Okay,
Hey, please,
okay, yeah, John, sure.
please allow me. I served in the state house with Congressman, or when he was a rep, Molinar. And other than him being somewhat to the right of me, he's an absolute gem of a man. I'm also a Wayne State alumni, and was invited to the Damon Keith luncheons. And Damon Keith at Wayne State, this is an outstanding, incredible resume. Damon Keith was known for the words, "Democracy dies behind closed doors." So I can't begin to thank you enough. Boy, it'd be all kinds of fun to have intellectual volleyball with you.
It is interesting.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. That's a
I
nice
hope
compliment.
people will look at this.
Yeah, they can see it right now. Any other questions for Ben? Okay, need a motion on this one?
Mr. Supervisor.
Mr. Clerk.
I move that the Board
No,
of
no, this is not public comment time. Go.
I move that the Board of Trustees appoint Benjamin Eckley to the Plymouth Township Historic District Commission for the term ending June 30th, 2026.
Okay, motion's made by Clerk Vorba,
Second,
seconded by
please.
Trustee Stewart. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes,
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Item F is the appointment of Kara Stoney to the Environmental Leadership
Thank you.
Commission. Kara, you here tonight? Oh, come on up.
he lives in Plymouth Township?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
you have
point.
to. Yeah.
I didn't send my updated resume, but I have it.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I know you just had a small date change on that, so.
Yep.
Anybody have any questions for Kara?
So, same question. What is your feeling on private property rights?
I don't really know if I have a definite feeling as of, a strong feeling either way. I do agree if it's your private property, you can do what you want, but I also agree you have to oblige by the city that you live in as well as the HOAs, depending on the subdivision, so.
Okay. What else do you want to say about?
I can give you a little bit of my background. I went to Michigan State for package engineering. I've been working on sustainable packaging development for the past 10 years. My role right now, I work at Dow, and I'm marketing manager for their sustainable packaging. And I work toward brands to ensure that they're able to utilize our materials in order to get them into a recyclable package. So really making sure that all of our products are sold into recyclable packaging and has a circular story.
Would you be interested in working on improving and working with our recycling program?
Yeah, that's kind of why I decided to join. I think that maybe there's some improvements to do and some education that can be out there as well.
Awesome.
Great.
I just want to say, go green.
Oh, good, sorry, what, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Kara? Hearing none, do I want to make a motion?
So moved. I do know the Stoney family.
Oh, okay.
Very, very well, like 3 decades.
Oh, okay, okay.
So
John, you know
moved.
everybody.
Board of Trustees appoint Kara Stoney to the Environmental Leadership Commission for a term ending June 30th, 2026.
Motion's made by trustee Stewart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey. Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Clerk Vorba, yes.
Okay, next is the reappointments of Tim Boyd and John Itzel to the Plymouth Township Planning Commission. They are not here tonight. We
So
didn't-
I misspoke.
Sure.
I don't have a,
Who is he? Where is he?
Tim's here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hello.
Chuck, you don't have an objection to this?
no, these people are doing a great job, so.
Yeah.
So G, H, and I?
Unless you have something, you were on the planning commission,
Yeah,
so.
no, they both contribute immensely, do their homework. They're both real assets to the planning commission.
Okay, so are we going to do G, H, and I?
Together.
as a
No,
unit?
no, we got H to talk about,
Okay, that's fine.
Okay,
H and I.
I'm all set with G if somebody wants to make a,
I'll do it. I move that the Board of Trustees reappoint Tim Boyd and John Itzel to the Plymouth Township Planning Commission for terms ending June 30th, 2025.
motion's made by trustee Treasurer Dorchevitz. It's gonna
Second.
take a while. Seconded by
Thanks.
trustee Monahan. Mr.
I
Clerk,
was
please
gonna say
take the
I'm
roll.
Monahan.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yeah,
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Trustee Kermy.
Yes,
Clerk Vorba, yes. Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item H is the reappointments of Mary Ann McLaren and Joanne Lamar to the Environmental Leadership Commission. I know Mary Ann is here tonight. And, yes, and Joanne is, I don't think she's here, but I know they've been both very active leaders in the commission and strongly recommend their reappointment.
May I make the
you
motion?
want to split them?
Nope,
No?
make the motion.
I move that the Board of Trustees reappoint Joanne Lamar and Mary Ann McLaren, who is here tonight, to the Environmental Leadership Commission for terms ending June 30th, 2026.
Motion is made by trustee Stewart. Is there a second? Second by treasurer Dorchevitz. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
No,
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
yeah,
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, item FI are the reappointments of Wendy Harless and Sybil Hunter to the Plymouth Township Historic District Commission. They are both here tonight. I'll entertain if anybody has any questions for either one of them. They've done a great job. Wendy is actually the chair of the Historic District Commission, has been doing a terrific job for us.
she just stand up so.
Yep.
We can, all right, I recognize you.
Okay, and Sybil, you want to just stand up real briefly? Okay, very good.
You have anything to say about what you're doing and why and?
You want to hear like a little synopsis?
Yeah,
Sure.
we want to reward people for good work, so that way we can hear about it. And please take this down so everybody can hear you.
So the Historic District Commission has been around for just 4 years. We are responsible for the historic marker that we have out front here. We recently finished and published our Historic Sites of Plymouth, Michigan publication, and that should be available shortly on the website. I worked on it today because we're making it ADA compliant. In the past, PDFs were not ADA compliant, but they can be now.
A PDF?
Yes,
Help me
isn't
out.
that
I don't-
amazing? I love learning new
Isn't it a
stuff.
click?
A PDF is a portable document format, so I designed it in InDesign, and typically in the past, the software that people who have hearing and sight impairment use to read the internet could not read a PDF. But the technology now exists that they can use their software to read what's in our PDF. So they don't have to come here to the township or to the library to get a printed copy. It's going to be available online.
So you had to you had to find software to do this conversion?
I'm a graphic designer, so I pay for Adobe Creative Cloud, and I volunteer my time and my resources to the township because I love history. I love the history that we have here in Plymouth. Another thing that not a lot of people know, but our commission discovered this, one of the very early settlers to come to this area from New York was the Farwell family. They had a farm here. It's on the border of Livonia and Plymouth Township, and he had 9 sons. 3 of them signed up to serve in the Civil War. One of them, Reuben Farwell, became friends with Walt Whitman, and they were pen pals for years. Walt Whitman wrote a testimonial for the government so that Reuben Farwell's widow could get a pension for his service in the Civil War. And not a lot of people know that. He is named in one of Walt Whitman's books, his memorandum during a war.
He lived in the house on the south
And
side of
it
Ann
still
Arbor Trail, right?
exists. It still exists.
How can we encourage that house, which has recently changed hands, to not be destroyed?
I do not have any knowledge that the people who purchased it do want to destroy it. I don't know. I haven't heard any word about
I heard that they would like to make rebuild it, update it.
To update it and-
It's a
and-
heavy lift. I've been in that house and there's a lot of work.
But that's what we encourage, because using an existing building is the greenest recycle project you can undertake.
It's on the south side.
If you think about it, the Daisy baby gun factory still exists. It's just in a bunch of tiny little pieces in a landfill somewhere. It's such a waste of material and all of the energy that went into building that building. So we believe that historic older homes can be updated. There definitely are ways to do it. If a building is not livable for the century that we are in, it's not functional, right? So we don't want to have your building taken back to its original date or like something that's in Greenfield Village. We want it to be a functional home for you in the year 2022. And there are ways of doing that without demolishing everything, losing that history, losing our historic fabric in the community.
That's the house.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
we
great.
looked at this when you did your
Hopefully
presentation.
that will happen
Yes,
and
hopefully.
not see a bulldozer there.
Well, we think that by helping people to understand what we do have here, there's then an appreciation for it. And hopefully it's an incentive for people, to maintain and keep their older homes. And for people who want to buy an older home and demolish it, I would say you've got to love it or leave it alone. That's my stand. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Sybil, I think we're all set. Can I have a motion on this one?
I would speak, I'll offer the motion,
Okay.
speaking positively forward. August 11th, I'm told there's a host committee with honoring Friends of the Rouge at Phoenix Mill on August 11th. Thank you for your service. I move that the Board of Trustees reappoint Wendy Harless and Sybil Hunter to the Plymouth Township Historic District Commission and deeply thank them, acknowledging their terms will end June 30th, 2026.
Motion's made by trustee Stewart. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Monahan. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Supervisor Heisey?
Yes?
Trustee Monahan?
Yes.
Treasurer Gorshevitz?
Yeah,
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Kearney?
Yes.
Clerk Ford, yes, motion carries.
Okay.
Kurt,
Yes, sir.
on the Environmental Commission, there's another person that expires now, too. Did we miss them?
I don't think so.
Well, I have this list from your office that has a name. It says today, or not today.
oh,
It's
not-
Anita Yeager, June 30th,
Oh, no,
2022.
she's resigned.
Oh, so she's
She
gone.
resigned, yeah. So we just haven't filled that position yet. I don't think.
Even these today
I
didn't
gotta
fill?
check.
Maybe they filled it.
You can just check the cover memos again. She may be, I think maybe, what was that? Her term expired, but I think that Caristone may have replaced her tonight, so, yeah.
All right, so,
Yeah.
okay, that's what went on with that.
All right, so, we've already approved the rest of the consent agenda.
I have a question on bills.
Oh, okay.
Or a comment. I approved the bills, it was a huge stack. There's a bill in there, or several of them, for weed cutting by Reliable.
Yes.
I'd like to take those off. I know that they said it took them 3 hours, not 3 hours, 3 times to mow the piece of 50-foot lot. Typically, they charged almost $600. I think that's too much. I'd rather have them charge 3 times $40 would be 150 or 120.
The contract?
Okay, so here's the compromise.
I know we get the money.
We've already approved that. I mean, we approved that as part of the consent agenda, the bills.
Okay, well, then maybe going forward, go ahead.
No, I mean, we've approved it as part of the consent agenda. I think if you want to meet with Building Director Ken McDonald, he can
I already
explain that
spoke with
in
him.
more detail. Well,
But
so,
Pictures, I think.
yeah, right, but still, even if you mowed it 3 times, almost $600 for a 50-foot lot seems very high.
Well,
And I
we
realize
don't-
it gets passed on to the taxpayer or whoever purchases the house out of foreclosure, but
Yeah. Well, we certainly don't want to be in the lawn mowing business either, and so the alternative would be if we start, if the rates are more competitive, then people will just have us mow their lawns. I've seen that happen in other communities.
yeah, I understand that. This just seems pretty punitive, $600 nearly
Okay.
for a small lot.
Okay, so we're going to move on to item G. This is public comment, limited to 3 minutes. I will start my clock as soon as you come up, if you're interested. If nobody wants to speak, come on up.
Hello. Hi, my name is Byron Bardis. I'm I'm sorry. I'm the sole owner of 11625 Butternut in the George Romson neighborhood. And I had some questions, comments about 2 items on the agenda tonight. The first was the Historic Commission. And first, let me say I do find architecture and history interesting. But I just had a few questions. I was looking at the meeting agenda notes from the April 28th meeting, and it said, Wendy's still working to add all of the homes from George Romson's subdivision. I was just wondering, and updates to our 2020 home inventory. I assume you don't mean every house in the subdivision.
Okay, so you're referring to minutes from the Historic District Commission meeting?
Yeah, the Historic District
Okay.
Commission. It was on the website.
Wendy, you just want to quickly just explain that?
So one of our projects when we first started out was we wanted to find out what do we have in the township? Like what buildings do we have that are either historic or architecturally important? So I live in the George Robinson subdivision. I live on Morgan. And our neighborhood is actually the oldest subdivision in the township. And we're trying to research it to get a little more history, you know, about when it started. But it was George Robinson's farm. He subdivided it up into lots. One of the things I really love about our neighborhood is every house is different. Every house was built at a different time by a different family or architect. Sometimes they didn't have an architect. So what we were trying to do with this initiative is just go around and get an inventory of buildings that we think are either 50 years or older or maybe architecturally important. And we wanted a snapshot of how everything looked in 2020. So that being my neighborhood, I got my camera. Sunny day, it's quarantine, you can't go anywhere, right? 2020. So I just walked around and got pictures of different houses that are either historically or look like they are an older house. And so I have that, I have that on a card, on a SD card, and I need to go through and identify like what is the address for it. And so then we're building a database in the cloud. We have it on a server where we can say, what did everything look like when we started in 2020? And so that's it. We're just trying to get a visual inventory. There's no like plans for that. There's no project for that. We just want to know what are the houses that are really super cool.
Are you researching the Register of Deeds to get the age of the original structure?
We can. Sometimes when you go back that far, like if this subdivision is as old as we think it is, like 1840s would be.
No.
George Robinson.
Well, I know, but the houses are not 1840.
Right. Well, everyone was built at a different time. So when you go back that far, it is difficult because there weren't ordinances. There wasn't a place where you went and said, I would like to build a barn or I would like to build a house. So you do have to look at that Registrar of Deeds and you look to see when did the taxes go way up? Because that's your indication that something was built there to increase the value of it. Now, is that original house still there? Probably not. Like I said, finding out that the Farwell house was probably 1840s, 1850s was a pretty big deal for us. And we confirmed that through the Register of Deeds and the information that they have of the tax records at the museum. That's how we confirmed how old that house is. So it is difficult to tell because homes were added on to, homes were demolished before there was any kind of ordinance to govern what you could do, what was safe to do. So it is difficult to tell. You've got to look at a couple of different things, like, I'm sorry, like the architecture of it. You do
Well, come to the township and look at our tax rolls from back in those years, tax records.
And actually, I discovered that my house was built in 1926. If you look at Zillow or you look at a lot of those online real estate things, it will tell you my house was built in the 1940s. But by looking at the architecture, the way that it is constructed, the materials that are used, I was pretty sure it was older. And come to find out, yes, it was built in 1926. So my house is almost 100 years old.
Another resource for that, have you ever looked at bsaonline.com? If you go to that website, you can look up it covers various states and a lot of communities. In Michigan, Detroit is not on there, but.
Okay, guys, hey, we gotta, if you want to have an offline discussion, that's great. We got a lot of work to do tonight, so do you have any other questions?
And I just want to say, my house, if you look on BSA Online, you can see it was built in 1977. And, I'm not aware of any historical significance to it. I bought it from, my ex-wife and I purchased it in 1995 from Larry and Renee Donahue, who owned Donahue Farms. But I believe it was originally built by Ray Moats. I'm just going by records from.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for the board? We got to move on.
You were talking about, constitutional rights earlier, Chuck Hermie, et cetera. And, I'm sure, as a United States citizen, since birth, I'm sure you'll respect homeowners' rights as far as, trespassing on yards or before posting anything online or anything like that.
We're not posting them online. They're just in the
Okay.
so we can see this is what everything looks like.
Okay. And I just want to say for the record, I do not, as far as I know, there's nothing historical about it. In the subdivision, there are actually 4 houses, the same as mine. 2 are mirror image with the same floor plan. But I just want to say, I'm not aware of anything historical, and it's only 45 years old, but I would not want mine on it. You said it.
Are you all set?
That, and I had one other
really quick
question regarding the appointment of Jerry Vorva as trustee.
Okay, he's been appointed to the board representative to the zoning board of appeals.
Okay, because everyone is already a trustee.
Okay.
I thought it was.
Yeah, it's just a ZBA, so it's a separate board.
Okay. And just another comment. I see you're also a real estate agent for Professional One Real Estate. And I was just wondering if you thought that might be any kind of conflict of interest since you're approving zoning ordinances, things like that.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. I'm Beth Birmingham. I'm a 10-year resident of Lake Point. And I just wanted to say that I'm very happy that Mary Ann McLaren was appointed again for the Environmental Leadership Commission. I was actually on that commission a few years ago, and the people on that board take their jobs or volunteering very serious. I know that Mary Ann and her board, they do lots of work with Friends of the Rouge, Miller Woods, Johns Creek, and I just think that she does an excellent job, and I'm happy that she was reappointed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Estelle Uliansky, my
Can't hear you.
affiliation for this meeting and the Conservative Republican. It was mentioned at last week's meeting that everything comes down to the law. And my question for you is, how many lawyers does it take to get it right? The other thing I want to say is, you also mentioned that party politics don't have a place at this level of government. Go look at the Mary Starfer Supervisor page and see some of the ideas she had for our township and see if you agree with them. And lastly, Dan Callahan was the one who was next in line for the most votes. He's a man of integrity. He comes to the meetings and he represents the people. And I really think Dan Callahan should get the appointment as the next trustee. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Anybody else?
Don Schindler. I'm here tonight to support Dan to be the trustee also. I think he's in line for it. He ran, the other ones never ran. When you put that much work into a campaign and the money you put in, and there becomes a vacancy, I truly believe you should allow the one that was in line to take the place.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Jill LeBlanc. I was one of the 9 applicants, and unfortunately last week I apologize that I was not able to change my schedule to come. I actually picked that up. I do want to correct the record, though, when it talks about Mr. Callahan being the only person who was on the ballot for the trustee position, is that I was also as the Libertarian Party.
That's correct.
Okay, anybody else? I also want to state, too, that we did have another applicant. You may recall there was Mr. Groneveld or Grunwald. He did withdraw his name prior to the interview session last week. So we did solve that mystery. He had sent us an email, and it kind of got caught in our filters. Okay, Mr. Vorva, item H1 is appointment of the new township trustee.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. At tonight's meeting, I will be seeking nominations for the petition of Township Trustee for the unexpired position ending in November 2024. This vacancy was created by the appointment of Robert Dershowitz to the office of Township Treasurer following the resignation of former Treasurer Mark Clinton. Tonight, each board member will state their first preference for trustee. If none of the applicants has 4 votes on the first ballot, we will proceed to a second round and so on until a name emerges with 4 votes. The person with the least amount of votes or no votes will be eliminated. The person with 4 votes will be appointed using the following motion below immediately.
Okay, how do you
ready?
want to, you want to
Yes,
poll the board
poll the
members?
board right now. Trustee Stewart, what is your selection?
How did I know you were gonna pick me first?
You're first.
You're on the end of the line, you're at the end of the line.
I
thought I was going to be first.
Gail Grieger.
Okay.
Okay. 1 vote for Ms. Grieger.
So what are you doing again, Jerry?
I'm just polling everybody. You're saying who your preference
This
is.
is a preference poll.
This is a preference poll.
It's not a vote?
It's not a vote.
It's not a vote.
It's a preference
There will
vote.
be a motion to.
There'll be a motion
vote later
afterward,
on.
yeah. So Treasurer.
And we're only allowed one.
Well,
at this point.
At this point.
I can't say,
At this
no,
point.
no, no.
okay.
It's spelled right out there. Okay.
Treasurer Dorshevitz, your
Oh, my
preference?
first choice is Gail Grieger.
Okay. That's 2 of preference votes for Gail. Supervisor Heising.
Jennifer Buckley?
1 for Jennifer Buckley. Clerk Vorba, Jennifer Buckley. That's 2 votes for Jennifer Buckley. Trustee Monahan.
Mr. Callahan.
Okay. 1 vote for Mr. Callahan. And Trustee Kirby.
Callahan.
2 votes for.
Okay. So we have a 3-way tie. What we can do is we can do a revote at this point. I think we can, we're all smart lawyers up here, right? We can figure out what we want to do next. We've talked about first votes and second votes, et cetera. So, Mr. Clerk, I would recommend that you start again, that you do a second round, starting with Mr. Kermy.
Exactly. Mr. Kermy, your vote.
Callahan.
1 vote for Mr. Callahan. Trustee Monahan.
Callahan.
2 votes for Callahan. Clerk Vorba. Jennifer Buckley. Supervisor.
Buckley.
2 votes for Jennifer Buckley. Treasurer Dorshevitz.
Grieger.
2 votes for Ms. Grieger. 1 vote for Ms. Grieger. And Trustee Stewart. 2 votes.
You do know that how many Presbyterians it takes to change a light bulb.
I don't think that's
Change?
necessary. I don't think that's necessary. We don't need to get.
Put it in the minutes.
So I would like to know what the preference of the board would be at this point. If this is deadlocked, I can always call a special meeting for next week when we meet to interview the the three trash hauling companies. We can also, we have 45 days. I don't exactly know when the 45-day period expires.
Starts when he was
It
appointed.
started when Dorshevitz was.
May
was
10th, from May
appointed,
10th, 45
so if
days. You
somebody
count
wants
every
to-
day, like Sunday and Saturday?
I think so.
I think it's every day.
Yeah. So I can keep bringing this back, otherwise it will go to the November ballot, and the Democrats will appoint somebody. The Republicans will appoint somebody. I don't know who the Republicans are going to be. I know that we have the Wayne 11th Republican Committee that is based in Livonia. I don't know what the impact of redistricting has had on that. So I don't know who they're going to nominate. The Libertarians can nominate somebody, and the Democrats can nominate somebody. So
How would that work? The party would actually nominate?
yeah, the way it's supposed to go down is that and this is where it gets tricky, because Wayne County does not have there is no Wayne County Democrat Party per se. There is a Wayne County Republican Committee. I don't know if they really have the legal authority to make this decision. There is a Wayne 11th Republican Committee. However, that you may have an impact there because of the redistricting, because now the Wayne 11th has been split up and there's a new Wayne 6th committee. The Democrats are not organized, to my knowledge, on that basis. So I don't know if that would be the current 11th District Democrat Party or the future 6th District Democrat Party. I think that there may be possibilities for legal challenges from a variety of quarters and then also too, I mean, you're then asking a group of individuals who are precinct delegates from Livonia, Canton, to basically make your nominee. I mean, if you're comfortable with that, then okay. But I think as long as we have the opportunity to do it tonight, I think that's the route that we should take. I mean, the voters have entrusted us with the responsibility to fill vacancies according to the law, and that within that time frame, we have a 45-day period.
Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
Is there any possibility of a closed session?
No.
Okay. Okay. Is there any possibility of the 4 points that all of us received from 46-year Lake Point resident Susan Bondi be read into the record?
No. I'm trying to, let me.
You mean the email that was sent?
No, we're not going to read everybody's email. We've seen, we've
I asked for
received
one.
dozens of emails. No, we're not going to do it.
Okay.
Now, another option would be for one of the nominees mentioned tonight to withdraw their name. We could do that tonight.
Who wants to volunteer?
Well, and would you clarify something else that I'm not throwing hearts and flowers, so you're very knowledgeable. I became a member of the Washtenaw GOP Executive Committee, and they welcomed me because our new congressional district is very different. It's number 6, and it includes Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. And that's what you'll be voting on in less than 60 days.
Well, the question also
I
becomes.
mean, the Democrat is so very, very, very well known. I'm from downriver. I mean, her name is Dingle.
But John, the question also is, if it's the 11th District Republican Party, they're controlled by Oakland County. So you will have an Oakland County-dominated Republican entity making our nominee. I mean, I'm uncomfortable with that. I think it's our responsibility to address this issue first.
So I had outlined, we never really kind of discussed.
Disappointed.
Yeah, you're disappointed, but let's figure out the solution.
Well, one way to approach it might be to do a point system, a first choice and a second choice. And if you did it, if we did it where your first choice was 3 points, your second choice was 2 points, and your third choice was 1 point, and it required 10 points to get over the top. that means that at least 4 people would have to vote for that candidate.
We did that in that debacle
I
in
know, but they did it
2015.
wrong.
Isn't that a secret ballot, though, at that point?
I think we'd have to, I don't know. You'd have to ask Kevin that question.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we bring.
Well, hold on. Why don't we do a 5-minute recess, okay?
I'd love to see him.
I move for a
But if we
5-minute
do a
recess.
5-minute recess, that isn't the time to have sidebars.
No, you
is it?
can't do it. No, you can't do a round robin. You can't do that.
No, we're not gonna do round robin.
We're just gonna take a recess right now.
We're all gonna,
Go to the bathroom.
we're all gonna comply with the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah.
All right, 5 minutes. off? I can't hear myself. Hey, Benjamin in the back, can you hear me? You guys can hear me? Okay. All right, Mr. Clerk, do you have anything new to add? What do you want to do next?
I think I make a motion that we move this decision till the next board meeting.
I disagree. I think we should.
Next what
I
meeting?
think we should take a.
Regular board
I think we
meeting?
should.
The regular board?
I think we should go according to
Second.
your.
I think so too.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second?
Motion?
Did you, that was your motion?
No.
Motion?
Was that
What
a
was your motion?
No, your motion, was it your motion or?
I don't know.
Jerry, I thought you made a motion
I
to
made a
move to the
motion that
next
we-
regular board meeting,
Next regular board?
and I seconded it.
Okay.
Okay,
Can we make it the next, can we make it can we do, I can do a special meeting
do
for
a
next
special
week?
meeting.
Time
We
is
already
up.
are having one.
Time is up. We are having a special study session next
So
week.
we can make it a special meeting.
I can make it a special meeting. Time is of the essence. I'm not going to drag this out for another 2 weeks. These people don't want to wait for another 2 weeks.
Yeah, I understand
We need
that, but
closure.
just look back on history, is we went Kay Arnold for many, many months without her. We went many, many months without Mark Clinton. So a couple of weeks.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, we did. Mark Clinton,
Mark Clinton did not resign. He came
he
to
did
meetings.
not attend I'm talking about attending meetings.
He
From
attended some. That's
different.
October until May, once or twice. So it isn't something that's going to be.
State law.
Apples and oranges, apples and oranges,
no,
and
I
you're
don't think
talking
so.
here about,
45 days.
45 days from May 10th.
Right, I
Plus, you've
understand
got
that.
people here who have complied in good faith, and we're letting them out to dry here.
So do I understand you correctly? You're saying one adjournment and that's it?
But then, how do we break the log jam?
I would like to do a revote tonight. I think we've learned a lot more about, and I'm happy to entertain more questions about the process going forward. If this is handed over to the Democrat and Republican and Libertarian parties in this area, we cannot say I cannot say with certainty tonight exactly what political entity is going to make that decision. Is it in the case of the Republicans, is it the Wayne 11th Committee, which arguably is defunct? Is it the Wayne 6th Committee, which doesn't have membership yet? Is it
Wait a minute. I think they've got.
okay, hold on, but let me finish.
They're up
Is
and
it
running.
the current Wayne 11th Congressional District Committee that it goes all the way into Oakland County? Is it the new 6th Congressional District Republican Party or Democrat Party? I don't even know how the Democrats are not organized along similar lines.
But Kurt, you just answered our question. You have questions. We all still have questions then. I think we ought to adjourn till next week.
Adjourn.
Well, I mean, we do the count next week.
Postpone.
Okay, but next week then I'll just make next week a special meeting.
But then what's gonna be any different? Are we gonna deliberate?
Sure, we're deliberating now.
Yeah, I guess we are, but are we gonna
Well,
talk
at least
about?
we can look into some of the questions that this poses. I mean, it's first I've, I mean,
I've watched the video 3 times now.
Yeah.
You know, I watched it carefully. I don't know if anybody else had a chance to look at it, but I've looked at the questions 3 times, and I came to my conclusion after really studying the details.
As did apparently everybody else.
Yeah, I didn't mean
Are you
to
saying that
suggest
we didn't do
otherwise,
that?
Jerry. Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that.
Okay, I move for a revote tonight. Is there a second?
There's already a motion on the
Second.
table.
No, there's a motion on the table to adjourn, not to adjourn, to
Has
postpone.
that been defined, Jerry?
Well, I made the motion, he
I
seconded.
second
Oh,
it.
okay.
Okay, we gotta
I
take a vote.
thought Audrey did it.
no, I did not do that.
Okay, so there's been a motion to postpone this matter till next week, to next Tuesday, for a special,
Is
board
that
meeting.
it next week, or was it the next
Let's
regular
amend-
meeting?
Well, we can make it that, I amend it to to the next special meeting.
I mean, what's the date? 21?
21st.
June
21st.
21.
Yeah.
Yeah, first day of summer.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay, so a motion's made by Clerk Vorba, seconded by Trustee Kermy. So take the vote.
Clerk Vorba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
No.
Trustee Dorchevitz.
Yeah,
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Supervisor Heisey.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay. So, folks, thank you for your participation in the democratic process. We never said it was going to be easy or clean, but if you want to stick around and listen to our fabulous audit summary this year, thanks to the terrific work that this township board has done since 2016, I certainly would invite you to stick around. Otherwise, it looks like we will see you next week. Okay, we're going to move on to item H3. This is the annual audit presentation and approval. So our poor auditors are here tonight, and they showed up, and the place was full, and they were like, wow, do you guys really get that excited about audits in this town, or what? So
This will be a showstopper.
we as you can see, it's not as big a deal as you thought. So. But we appreciate all your hard work on this.
Very good. Well, thank you for having me. For those of you who may not remember, I'm Allie Barnes. I'm a principal with Yo and Yo. Also served kind of as the in-charge for this year's audit. I take a very vested interest when we onboard clients, especially for the first few years, just to make sure the process goes extra smoothly. And I think your finance director would agree that this was a pretty smooth audit, considering it was our first year here. So, okay. Just making sure you're moving
So let me
up there.
just also say for the record that we also have Ginger Moriarty here, who's our finance director, and both of you guys have done a terrific job, and I'm sure you'll hear more accolades before the end of the night.
Very good. All right. So the purpose of an audit, for those of you who don't know, is to have an independent CPA come in and give an opinion on the financial statements. The financial statements and their preparation and all the internal controls and recording that goes into them is management's responsibility. Our only responsibility as auditors is to issue an opinion. And the opinion that the township received this year was an unmodified opinion. That's the clean opinion that you want us to issue. So that's excellent news. We're going to talk about some of the general fund numbers here, starting with general fund revenues. And I'm just going to assume that someone's going to keep moving
Bob,
this.
are you going to do the, Bob is
Maybe.
These are.
Sorry, I thought you were.
Also. hard
Yes,
copy.
you also have a bound copy of this presentation in front of you. All right, so if we take a look here at the general fund revenues over the past 5 years, you can see that several areas have been trending up. Property taxes, which account for about 52% of 2021's general fund revenue, trended up, came in at about 10.4 million. Intergovernmental dollars have remained relatively flat over the past 2 years, but they do account for about 20% of your general fund.
Can you give us an example of intergovernmental?
Sure, your state revenue sharing dollars would be intergovernmental revenue. Any federal or state grants would also be considered intergovernmental dollars. Charges for services make up about 10% or just over 2 million of your dollars, and then licenses and permits are about 13%. You'll see in licenses and permits in 2020, there was kind of a dip there. We saw this at a lot of townships and other local governments that issue licenses and permits due to COVID and the reduced activity that there was there.
Charges for service, will you give me an example of that?
Sure. So like your dispatch services that get charged to City of Plymouth would be an example. Okay. All right, we'll talk about total revenues here in a couple of slides, but we'll look at the breakdown of the general fund expenditure categories.
I'm sorry, I thought you were still on that slide.
No, you're good. All right, so we break these down into just a few categories. Within your township, public safety is the most significant category, making up just over $12 million of your general fund expenditures. This year, you will see there were some increases overall in expenditures. Many of those are personnel related. So there were changes to the MERS rates that are charged for the defined benefit pension plan. There were wage increases, and there were also some retirements which resulted in leave time balance payouts for the year. So those three items really accounted for the majority of increases within this category. General government is your next most significant category, costing about $3.5 million. A couple changes here from 2020 to 2021. If you'll remember, your OPEB or your post-employment benefit plan is on a corrective action plan with the state to increase the funding percentage. And so in 2020, there was $1 million contribution made to that plan. In 2021, that contribution was reduced to about $250,000. So that's the majority of the reason for the decrease in general government expenditures. Additionally, in 2020, that was an election year. There was not an election held in 2021, I'm sorry. And so that was a reduction of about $200,000. Everything else kind of gets lumped into your all other category of about 2.4 million. And you'll see over the past 3 years, really, those other general fund expenditures have remained relatively consistent.
Are these growing, what rate are they growing from 2017 to 2021? What's the average annual rate?
I do not know that. We could certainly have that calculated for you.
Your question is on the expenditure side?
Yeah. You know, I could add it up and calculate it myself, but.
So if we look
had
at.
the millage in, when was that, 17?
If we look at the next slide, we can see the total from 2017 to 2021. So you'll see back in 2017, your total annual expenditures in the general fund were just over 14 million versus about 18.1 million total at 2021.
So that's
So
4
about-
million, 4 million?
4 million.
4 million over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Correct. Okay, so on page 5 here, we can see that your general fund revenues have been overall trending up. 2020 had about 19.9 million in total revenues versus 18.1 million in total expenditures. So I like to look at this in comparison to what fund balance looks like, so you can kind of have a visual of what your fund balance is in relation to both your revenues and your expenditures. So that's going to be the green line on this chart, which the ending total fund balance is about 7.4 million at the end of 2021 versus 5.6 million in the previous calendar year. And then of that, I also like to look at what is the unassigned fund balance. So on the next slide, we're going to see some breakout in fund balance numbers for different amounts, but I think it's important to look at that unassigned balance because that's really what's available for general expenditures.
You're on page 5 right now.
Yes.
So what's an example of assigned?
Of assigned fund balance?
So the difference between the green and the blue, right? What is, we're not on water sewer.
Are you on page 6?
Page 5, right?
What page
I thought you were just finishing page 5.
I was. So can you repeat your question?
All right, green line, blue line, unassigned, and then total fund balance. Explain what is assigned and what is unassigned. Give me some examples.
Okay, so actually, can we go to the next slide? Because it'll be easier for me to explain that to you.
So slide 6.
Slide 6.
6.
Yes,
Halfway between 5 and 7.
exactly.
Okay,
You're
gotcha.
excellent at math. Okay, so on this slide, here you can see all the components of your fund balance. So that bar on the right makes up all of your fund balance, which is 7.4 million. We'll start at the top, which is your orange portion. That's your non-spendable fund balance. That's made up of items that are not in a spendable format, such as prepaid expenses or other types of deposits that would get made. This year, that portion of the chart increased because of the recording of what's in MMRMA. The deposit that's essentially held with them is now recorded in your financial statements. And so because
So that's a new accounting rule?
that is not a new accounting rule, but that was missed in previous years. And so now it is accurately being reported.
So there's a sliver in 2019 and a sliver in 2020, or is it just not included?
It was not included in those years. This is the first year that the MMRMA balance has been recorded in general fund.
So to make this a good comparison, should we put it in 29 on the bar chart so we'd know what we're,
Well,
what we?
I mean, we could, but that is not what was reported in your financial statements. So the amounts here come from your audited financial statements.
So this is not a meaningful slide because you can't make a good comparison really to 19 and 20. It doesn't have the MMRMA.
Well, you can see the comparison, though. Just lop off the yellow
There is no yellow in 19 and 20?
in 2020.
There's not very much because you only had prepaid expenses during those years that were recorded. So
What's going on with MMRMA that we have so many prepaid expenses? Help me out.
So
That's our insurance
MMRMA
company, right?
Yes, bills you premiums. And within their premiums, they account for some buildup of, we'll call it fund balance on their side, that is a reserve to pay for future claims. And so typically, we would see that reserve that's sitting there that has not been set aside for a particular claim as being like a prepaid amount on the township's books. Then, as claims happen and that fund balance is reduced, then your prepaid amount on the township's financial statements would also be reduced. And so when that fund balance, we'll call it fund balance, that's not probably the technical term, at MMRA, when that starts decreasing, then this yellow section would also start decreasing.
So your premiums go into a pool, essentially, or a fund at MMRMA is where the premiums go. And then when that's drawn down, then what happens after that point in time?
So that would reduce then the amount of funds that you have on hand with MMRMA.
Is this an
They still
indicator?
pay- They still pay the claims.
Right. Is this an indicator that we have some large pending claims?
No,
No.
that is not an indicator of
It just
that.
wasn't recorded before.
It just wasn't recorded before. And
This
so,
is an accounting
It's an accounting
rule.
yes.
It should have been recorded before, it wasn't. Now it is.
So we're correcting an accounting error
Yes.
Yes.
of previous years.
I wouldn't call it an error. I think it's more of a
A non-audited.
it's a policy. It's an auditing policy, right? Isn't this as part of the Gatsby rules or something? or
No, before, the auditors may have not audited that portion and didn't see it or something.
Right. They, for whatever reason, it
was
wasn't
missed.
included in the prior year. It could have been under their scope when they calculate materiality. I can't speak, to why, but that's what that portion is. The next portion down that's gray is your restricted portion of your fund balance. So there's two components of this. There's about 2 million that's in construction code fees. So as you charge out those permits, then you offset that revenue with related expenditures. And if there's an excess between the revenue and the expenditures, you have to restrict a portion of fund balance for those.
And that gets refunded to the developer or the builder. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Because if they have an escrow and they don't use it all,
That's not the same thing.
not the same thing.
No, not the same thing.
So I guess I'm not understanding. Help me out a little more.
So this is gonna be dollars that the township retains. This restricted money decreases when you have more building and permit expenditures than you do revenues coming in.
But where is that money? That money is in the general fund?
General fund, correct.
Okay, since you're on this item, building fees can only be used for the building department.
Correct.
So what are we doing to match that up? Because I imagine that in last year and this year, the fees are exceeding the expenses in the building department. This year especially. So maybe is that something we need to look at next year in the audit?
No, that would be a violation of the Bolt decision, which has been around now for decades.
Right, well,
So
we need to make
don't-
sure
don't
we're not.
So if we have an overage or a surplus, if you will, in that particular line item, it's because of money has not been drawn down.
An inspection may not have occurred or something.
All right, well, Ginger, you want to explain it to us?
So this year, our budgeted revenue for permit fees, based on what we actually collected versus what we budgeted, the amount of permit fees that came in this year were $432,000 over what we expected based on budget. The amount of revenue that we took into the building department for all construction fees, permits, and expenditures in which we paid out for the inspections to incur reflected a surplus of $330,000. So we collected $330,000 more than what we paid out to operate the building department.
Okay, I understand
Has
that.
nothing to do with building escrows. Those are in the
All right.
balance sheet and the liability statement, have nothing to do with income statement revenues and expenses. So we budget what we believe it's going to cost to operate the building department, and we collect the permit fees.
So for 350,000 over, what do we,
$330,000 of surplus revenue, which then goes into the restricted fund balance and can only be used in the building department. So that's why that is increased to 1.9.
so we can keep that from year to year, carry it over?
It's part of our fund balance.
So we are over collecting because we're not over collecting. We're not spending, the balance isn't there. 330,000
We're collecting
out of
more
balance.
than the amount of expenditures that were incurred.
How do other communities deal with this that have much more development going on than we do?
Wow, who has more development than us right now? I'd
Oh,
love to know.
there's many, you know.
We have
places-
phenomenal economic development happening
I
in
know,
this
but
township
it's,
right now. That's why
we're
we
not
have
building 500 or 1,000 houses. That's my point.
this. No, we're building businesses, 5 Mile and everything else. Oh, we have a hospital right here. Anyway.
To answer your question, all local units are required to follow the same law. So everyone is required to account for this in the same manner and show this as a restricted portion of their fund.
So what do they do with the surplus?
People
overage.
usually retain that surplus, and then over time, that will get spent down eventually
In the building department.
in the building department. Yes.
Building department only.
Yes.
Okay, it
It's
might be
just
hard
like
to spend that
restricted
down.
PEG fees or restricted drug law funds. It has to stay in that department.
If we have a downturn in the economy, which I'm sure we will, then, you know, we may have less economic development activity, and, you know, that's when you go to the well.
That's a good thing, isn't it?
What?
Excess, not to go to the well.
Yeah, no, it's good to have the excess because it's a strong indicator of strong economic growth and development in the community, so.
Rainy day fund.
Yeah. It's basically a building department rainy day fund.
Yeah.
All right, the next very small portion on here, kind of in orange, is your committed fund balance. That's about $129,000, and that was committed back in 2019 for public safety expenditures. So the only way that can be removed is either spending dollars towards that purpose or having the board vote and have a resolution to decommit those funds.
Committed, and so there's an accrual on that. It's committed for a specific purchase or something? What was it?
The board actually passed a resolution to commit the $129,000 for public safety, and it was for pension, OPEB, and equipment.
The Dempsey rule.
The what?
The Dempsey rule.
Well, we probably need to manage that. Just leaving it sit there is not a good idea
Well, we have a board motion to that effect.
for our next budget.
We can take a look at it, but we would have to.
Right,
We would have to rescind that motion.
All right, so if we take all of what's in fund balance, take out those three categories that we've just discussed, that leaves you with your unassigned fund balance, which is about 4.3 million. Okay, so changing gears away from general fund, if you want to move to page 7, we'll touch on the water and sewer fund activity. So here we can see what operating revenues and expenses are for the past 4 years. You'll see that your operating revenues did in fact exceed your operating expenses, which is what we would expect to see within this type of a fund. For 2021, Total revenues, total operating revenue came in at about 13.8 million versus about 10.2 million in operating expenses. The reason why you want to see a difference there and you want some excess operating revenue is so that you have enough on hand for capital, either improvements or additional repairs and maintenance into the future. So within that fund, what we look at isn't fund balance, but is net position. And probably the more important piece is going to be unrestricted net position. Because you have a net investment in WTUA, we back that out also to give a better comparison. So you have about 18.9 million in unrestricted net position, net of that other investment. And that essentially is what you would have in cash, receivables, any other type of asset that's current, less your current type liabilities. So accounts payable, if you have accrued expenditures. So the majority of yours, about 14 million or so, is held in cash. So a strong cash position, which is beneficial and recommended in this type of fund due to the significant nature of what repairs and maintenance can be and the need for long-term improvements.
Do we have any outstanding loans that are, or are all loans current? In other words, the payments?
All payments are current.
No, I mean, where the water and sewer fund has loaned money, are there any on the, currently? Loaned money?
There was an advance funding, and then there is, per the resolution, a 2% per annum interest, and that was paid.
The loan was to which?
A loan to what?
What department?
The township advanced funding from the water and sewer fund to the special assessment fund.
So
The
SAD.
total is like 3.5 million.
For past SADs that are being paid off.
So there was an original balance, and then last year you amended that and appropriated another 2 million.
So there's 5 million loaned at the SAD?
3.5.
3.5.
Water and sewer.
All right. So that money is being slowly paid off with payments on the, that are on the tax roll for an SAD. And we're getting 2% interest
Per the
in the-
resolution, it was 2% interest.
for the water fund.
That's being paid from the special assessment fund to the water fund based on the interest that's collected from the special assessment fund.
Yeah, we might need to make some, Bob, we might have to look into this because interest rates skyrocketing.
At 2%, I'll loan you, I'll borrow.
Well, anyway,
everything you'll-
you know that I'm concerned about SAD outstanding money and what happens with, if we go upside down. In other words, the homeowners are paying an interest rate that's way below market, and we're acting as the, in
But we
inflation, the banker gets
Right,
screwed.
right, we're not the Bank of Plymouth Township.
But we could turn into it if things go to a high interest rate.
We could, that's why, in the past, we always discussed, an interest rate of prime plus a factor for that exact reason, so we don't become the Bank of Plymouth Township.
We could certainly revisit that if and when we ever, next time we do an SAD.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we probably will have to, because right now, prime plus, I think, 2, and then prime plus 4.
Yeah.
That could get surpassed here in the next 6, 8 weeks, at the rate we're going.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to slide 8. We'll talk about some of your unfunded legacy costs, the first being your pension plan. Here you can see over the past 4 years what this particular plan has done as far as what's being set aside in assets, so your fiduciary net position, which is in the blue, versus the total pension liability, which is the liability calculated by an actuary. So you'll see that both of those have been trending upwards. At the end of 2021, what you had in assets was about 27.3 million versus what was in the liability, which was 38.6 million. So we look at the net of those to get the net pension liability. And at the end of 2020, that was about 11.5 million. So I'm looking at that green line versus about 11.2 million at the end of 2021. So while the components have both been trending upwards, that net liability has remained relatively flat. So at the end of 2020, that plan was funded at about 68.23%. That funding percentage did increase at the end of 2021 and is now at 70.88%.
So for both Ally and Ginger, in 2020, the projection was that in 2027, all pension liabilities for the defined benefit would be paid off by us and it would require no more contributions. What is the present status of that? Is it still 2027?
I think you're referring to the 7-year funding plan for OPEB under the PA 202 action plan to fund the plan for 7 years.
I'm referring to the defined contribution plan, no, defined benefit plan, sorry. Defined benefit plan, which has been closed. It's been closed, and 2027 was given as the date that we would no longer have to make contributions. So let's look into that question. I know everybody's raising their eyebrows, but I'd say my memory's pretty good that 2027 was the end date that we thought was going to be for defined benefit pension funding.
But actuarially, that could change.
Yeah, it may change. That's why I'm asking. What is it now?
We're funded at 70%, so we increased from 68 to 70, which means we still have approximately 30% to fund.
I know that's what you're saying, but I'm saying I want to go back and figure out where this 2027 date comes. It didn't come out of my brain.
The first time I'm hearing about 2027.
Well, Mark Clinton told us about it up here.
Yeah, it's someplace in the files.
So I want a little
can pull that
update
up.
on that, and the auditors probably need to have a little eye on that if it's, because we were cruising thinking 2027 was a good date, but
that also depends on the assumptions and that it hasn't gotten beaten up.
Depends on when.
well, we had
people retire.
30% return last year.
Right.
That was last year.
Yeah.
That was
Right,
last
and so
year.
it's taken it back, maybe.
All of it.
But I don't know do you know if MERS is like some life insurance where once the gains are booked, they're held, and even if the stock market goes down, your asset value does not go down in the policy.
Like an annuity. Yeah.
Some insurance policies are that way. They credit once a month, and then it's locked in. Even if the market goes down, you're locked in on what you gain. You don't lose what you gained. So how does MERS do its calculation of our liabilities? If you don't know, all of these questions, hopefully, if you don't know, say you don't know, and then email us back, that kind of thing.
Sure. The 2027 issue, I have no idea about that. That's not within the scope of the audit, or we don't look at forward projections unless we have been engaged to do some type of.
Oh, you don't look at the actuary report?
We don't evaluate for forward projections. So we are taking a historical snapshot in time to do your financial statements, which is what we were engaged to do. We certainly could look forward if that's something you wanted our assistance with. As far as MERS and what happens with the investment balances, if the market decreases, then the amount reported as your fiduciary net position, which is in blue here, is going to decrease as well. You don't just get to have the gain of the investments without the decrease. What would not change is the employee's service credits. So the employee's benefit is still going to remain the same. They don't lose service credits because the market decreases, but your assets are going to lose value.
Which means that we have to make that up when they do the annual valuation of it. That happened to us 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where when the market took a left turn. Do you remember that, Chuck?
Well, we put 250,000 in 2021, correct?
That was
For
in
the
OPEB, not in pension.
OPEB. For defined contribution, defined benefit, what did we put in?
We actually pay the ARC, the actuarially determined required contribution to pension annually.
How much is
And
it?
we,
And for 2021, just 1 year.
It was about 1.45 million for 2021.
so that's the monthly payment that we make. And then to OPEB, we're only funding that based on the resolution that the board passed
Right.
to fund it at 1 million in the first year. And then that was reduced to $250,000 this year, and it's going to be $250,000 for the next 3 years. So that's a 7-year plan that I believe you're talking about, but I'm not familiar with the 2027 date that you referenced earlier.
Yeah, what I was referencing was
So we have.
defined benefit.
I think what you're talking about is
Pension plan
there's
versus the
defined
OPEB
benefit and there's
plan.
OPEB, so there's two different things. I think that OPEB is 2027. I want to say the pension was, I think the pension was much further out.
No, well, let's look at it, please. I know what I heard here.
Advertised over like.
Okay. We can find that.
In fact, we talked about it in the 2020 campaign.
I can
how smart
find it
we were.
tomorrow, I'm just not gonna.
Yeah, I don't know why you need to be snarky about it.
No, I'm not. I just wanted to confirm that we're on the, it's not
Yeah,
being
we are.
snarky at all. I just wanted to.
Well, yeah, it was, so.
Okay, well, that's impression, so.
Okay.
We want, just get the answers.
Well, it says here that the remaining amortization period for our pension plan is 19 years. And our remaining amortization for our OPEB plan is 9 years.
All right.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
trying
let's
to find
close
my
this and
computer
we'll,
files, but,
we'll get into it.
I want to say it was well into the, I want
Still has
29
19
or
years.
2031 or something
Yeah,
like
they're
that for the pension.
advertising the amount that we owe over a 19-year period.
Yeah.
So this year, we're working on 18
Okay,
years.
presently, we agree to disagree. I'll go back and try to see if I can find what I can find.
All right.
Did the actuarial report.
So, Ginger, what's the, do you remember, what's the time of the public safety millage from 2018? Is that a 20-year?
2035.
Yeah, I think that's why, I think that's one of the reasons why, I think pension perfection based on 2018 numbers is reached sometime, I want to say, in the early 2030s. But OPEB is reached much sooner than that, so.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite.
Okay. All right, we're all set, then keep going.
Okay, let's move to page 9 then, which is actually the OPEB numbers. Again, your fiduciary net position is in blue. You'll see that there wasn't any in 2018 because you had not started funding that plan. And then you can see that the blue has been increasing. So at the end of 2021, there was about $3 million in total assets for that plan. Then the red is going to be your total OPEB liability. You will see that that took a significant decrease this year. It's down to 9.7 million. The reason for that is because there were several assumption changes in the actuarial report. So there's something called the discount rate that they used to calculate that went from 2.88% to 7.35%. The investment rate of return used was 3.9%, and they've now used 7.35%. There were also changes to the mortality table, the healthcare trend rates, and the salary scale as well. So when they factored in all those assumption changes, that significantly reduced the total OPEB liability, which in turn reduced your net OPEB liability, which is there in green. So you went from a net OPEB liability of 15.6 million down to 6.7 million. So you were previously funded at 14% at the end of 2020, and at the end of 2021, you were about 30.57% funded. There is nothing to say that those assumption changes won't change again in the future and that that liability could increase. Something could change though, and the liability could also decrease. The actuary is very estimate based. It's not a true hard and fast number, and so it is susceptible to
But it looks like it's
changes.
trending in the right direction, right?
This year.
Yes.
Okay, we'll start with this year then.
Yes.
So these are all actuarial-based numbers, so the current costs of our healthcare for the township does not impact these numbers. These are all projections, basically.
They're set under the state of Michigan,
They're set by the state.
under the PO 202.
Got it. Good.
But the overall healthcare industry numbers are used to establish the actuary's assumptions. So.
Well, it's a formula that's
There is a
also.
portion.
Yeah, there's a portion of it, because the formula includes age, mortality, other factors.
So how is what moves the discount rate? How is that established?
The performance of the equity.
So that's what they use for the discounted cash flow, but it's because the return on equity has been higher? Is that why it's moved the discount rate so much?
I think as you have more history with the assets that you have, that, yes, that likely could continue to change, but that 7.35% isn't out of line with many actuarial reports that we see for OPEB calculations.
It's just way up from what it was in previous years.
Right, because you were not accumulating assets, so they had no history to base that on. But now, as you have assets and, we'll see what the market does, and that helps them determine a rate to use.
Okay, so Bob, the investment allocation that's shown here on page
On the MERS.
3-38, OPEB, 60% global, 20 global fixed income, and 20 private investments. That was established by Mark Clinton, but we need to revisit it now that you're the treasurer.
That was established by Mark?
That's what he said. When I asked him, who determines our investment decisions, he said, me.
No,
That's for surplus
I don't
funding.
think that was the case.
I tell you, he said he was the one that selected it.
All right, I'll look into that.
Okay, let's look into that.
Okay, moving on to page 10. Within your materials, both the version that you should have received electronically and tonight in the back of your bound financial statements is something we call the governance letter, which includes.
Excuse me, let me back up on that if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
If you read the paragraph above, Chuck, OPEB plans policy in regard to the allocation of invested assets is established and may be amended by the board by a majority vote of its members. And it goes on to say, this policy is established by MERS, not by the township.
Right, but don't we tell MERS what we want to do?
No.
That's what Mark gave me the impression, that we can take a level of risk that he can dial in or you can dial in.
We
Well, anyway,
can
let's
do that.
I believe there's a
to
form
talk-
that we have,
Yeah,
the
I'll
original
talk-
contract, the original resolution that was passed to form the OPEB trust. And during that period of time, there was an election of which equities you wanted to invest in as part of that board action. And I
Okay, so
believe
that's
there's a
an
number of
investment decision.
equities that you could choose from, but I believe those were the two equities that this board decided to invest in when you entered into the contract. My assumption is I
remember
wasn't
that.
here in 2017, but my guess would be that there was some discussion and deliberation on which equities or a recommendation that was made that the board all agreed to.
But those are changeable.
Those are changeable,
So
yes.
my point being made, Bob, we'll talk about it in your office.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Hey, Jeremy Schroet, do you still want to stick around, or what? You want to go? Yeah, go. Oh, you want to stay around?
No, I want to give a closing compliment.
Well, we're not done
We're
yet.
not done.
I'm just kicking
Okay.
Jeremy out. I mean, he's the engineer.
What?
We're not talking any
Are we going to
engineering.
go through?
We're not done yet, so keep going.
Well, it is relevant to page 10.
Well, sure. Then
Page
ask a
10,
Okay, ma'am,
this
no,
book?
not a question.
Oh, okay.
If you can handle it, it's a compliment.
I'll try.
I've been attending meetings for 5 years. Ginger, yourself, and I really like Alma College too. Full disclosure, better communication than ever. And I want to thank my two colleagues to the left, Treasurer Dorshevitz and our supervisor, because they have fostered and nurtured this communication.
Really?
This is just as clear as a bell. I mean, even, a lawyer who majored in business can follow this. So let's keep rolling.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
All right.
Are you?
Okay, page 10, we'll
Okay.
wrap it up. So within
Page
this
10,
letter,
Driving it home.
I'm not going to go through the entire thing. I just picked out some highlights to talk about. The first being that this is unusual, I feel like, that we had a year with no major GASBs to implement. So comparability within the financial statements because of GASB changes is not an issue. I already had mentioned that the actuary reports at OPEB and also the net pension liability have a significant amount of estimation in them, which significantly impacts your financial statements and what gets reported within those liabilities, and also anything related to your capital assets. So while the purchase price or historical cost of capital assets is a fixed number, how those assets are depreciated is subject to some amount of estimation because we really don't know how long things are actually going to last. Coming up, we do have some additional GASBs that will need to be implemented in 2022. There's a lease standard, and then in 2023, there is a standard related to IT subscription-based agreements. And so we will be working with Ginger through the process of getting those implemented. We've already provided the kind of summary compilation document to get going on the lease standards so that that is a smooth transition for that. Within that letter, if we had something that was a material weakness, a significant deficiency, or some other type of written finding, that is where you would find those. You can leaf through that thing as many times as you want and you will find none, which is a huge testament to all of the finance staff and anyone within the township that touches any piece of the finances, whether it's looking at and approving invoices, down to all of the work that Ginger and Carol put into year end and reconciling. So a huge testament to the work that they do. Within our process, we always end up coming up with things that we call verbal comments or just discussion for best practices. So we did have an exit conference a couple of weeks ago, and we did talk about a few areas of accounting where some best practices and maybe some tweaks could be made. And we also recommended that the township implement a written electronic transaction policy. So if you are going to have any type of ACH banking transactions, there is a policy that you're required to have that no one was able to find that the township had already approved. And then you also need to have a resolution to allow the acceptance of credit cards for payments. So a couple kind of minor items, but nonetheless, a couple of areas for improvements.
Yeah, I'll take care of that next meeting.
I would really like to take this time to thank Ginger. She was incredibly well prepared. In fact, as far as bringing on a new client, she's probably the most prepared I have ever had in 16 years. So really appreciate all her time and effort that goes into that, as well as all the follow-up and helping us while we were on site and then when we left and trying to finish up the process and get the reports issued. So thank you to her.
Yeah, thank you. Jennifer, but Ginger has been such a tremendous asset to our operations here. I've never met a finance director who has been more detail-oriented, and she certainly keeps us on task. Sometimes we push back, but it's a healthy balance. But more importantly, we get the job done in a very timely and efficient manner. I also want to thank the firm of Yo & Yo, because when you came to interview, we had been with the same firm for 23 years. And so we were a little uncertain what the future would hold for us. And we kind of got into a pattern of, complacency, but, we had certain expectations. I think you've really exceeded those expectations, in my opinion. The fact that you guys were the people who we interviewed were the people who were actually here. It wasn't passed over to an associate or somebody like that. And so we really appreciate the hands-on attention that you provided to us. It's very appreciated. Are there any other questions or comments by the board?
There's a comment in the, I think in the 5th page or so about sorry, it's been a long
5th page of which document?
Page 2-1. Says the township's financial rating with Standard & Poor's rating service remains at AA+. Can you explain what that means?
So that is going to be the rating that the bond agency gives to the township.
So is that like our credit rating, if you will?
Yes, yeah.
So I was told by another supervisor in another community that our credit rating or our bond rating could not be updated or reviewed unless we went out for a bond. And then that way the credit agencies would look at us with fresh eyes and we would be reevaluated. So are we relying on an old evaluation or the last bond that we did? Because I mean, we have very little debt. I mean, we have debts and obligations of this township are going to be, most of them are going to be dropping off within the next 3 years, and then we'll only have about 2 left. And I just have to think that as a result of that, and because of our faithful payment of all these obligations over the years, that our credit rating is going to be phenomenal. So just, I guess that's a comment and a question, but.
I believe that is how that process works. So you would be relying on an old rating. And then, given your credit history, when you go out for a new bond, they would.
So it's like going out for a home equity loan or a loan with a bank. They basically take a fresh look at you and see what your assets and liabilities and risk is, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
and their regulations are
laugh.
constantly changing too, so I can't speak in detail to that. That's
Yeah,
not
sure.
my area of expertise, but.
No, that's fine, and that's just good to know, because that's a question that Bob and I have had about, I see some of our neighboring communities tout the fact that we have an AA++ credit rating, and I'm like, Bob, what's our credit rating, and then I was told that you never really know until you go out for a loan again,
Since you brought that up, Watua debt and the fee that's on our water bills.
Yeah,
We need to look at that because we're getting close to paying off a
yeah,
chunk.
one more payment of the 1.4 million, and it'll be paid off.
And then water bill rates, we need to
Yeah.
look at that. I don't know, is Yo and Yo our consultant?
No.
Who is for water bill rates?
So I'm working on that model. I've been working on it for about a week, and I'm plugging the numbers in and working with Ginger and some others, and I met with Watua yesterday to go through some of their stuff. So I think there's a couple other numbers I got to pull together yet. The GLWA their rates are going up by about 3 to 4% for water. Sewerage should be static.
Watua/YUCA
Yeah,
is no change?
No change. And so I'll come back with a recommendation, I'm using the same model that Mark has been using for the last 5 years or so in that spreadsheet.
Yeah, so I would not be surprised if Watua comes at us in the years ahead or with another capital improvement project. I mean, sewer systems are constantly being upgraded, and a lot of that is just due to wear and tear. Some of it's due to regulations where we have to upgrade things.
You mean more than maintenance?
Sure, I
You mean they would be digging a new hole?
Replacing pipe, pumps, improvements to existing facilities. Yeah, I mean, there's always ongoing stuff like that.
But not big bonds like 100 million or something?
Oh, no, I doubt it, but no. But
Yeah.
a couple million here, a million there.
Yeah, kind of the ongoing capital improvements for sure, but the big build out that you're referring to from 10 years ago will be paid off.
Well, it was from 1999 is when we agreed to expand the plant.
Yeah, but
And there was like $135 million
Yeah.
bill for that.
But they're just finishing up another big retention. I mean, you've toured that.
Yeah, the retention,
one,
but-
and
yeah.
So
Tigers are losing to the White Sox.
they are.
Are they winning?
They're losing.
Wow, it's been
Now-
a shocking evening.
So we're not going to talk about water rates tonight, but I mean, I think the trend is good for us right now, and last 2 years, we have not raised water rates. They've been stagnant, so, a little pun there, water, stagnant, but anyway.
And you need air.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Yeah, I had to. So, just stay tuned on that one, but I think we should have some good results on that.
Ready for a motion?
Any other questions from the board?
I have
Comments?
one question, but you may not have time to answer it now. The collection fee on our property tax can only be used for assessing and treasurer. Did you look, or maybe Ginger, you know that. Where are we on that balance? Like building department versus, same example. If you, don't worry about it now if you don't have it on the,
Yeah, I don't have the exact amount of property tax admin revenue that we collected in relationship to the operations that you're referring to for
About
2021 at this time.
It's
but
about
you'll have to be
600.
getting it pretty quick to project for the budget next year, right?
I know for
I know, I heard that.
2022's adoption, we were not collecting enough property tax admin to cover the operations.
Because we lowered it to 0.94 because Mark Clinton said that we would be over. So you're saying we went under? All right. Well,
Yeah,
we
the
can-
projections for 2022, we were under.
All right, well, that's good.
All right, hearing no other questions or comments, anybody in the public want to comment on this? We will make it available. Thank you. I move that the Plymouth Township Board of Trustees hereby adopt Resolution 2022-06-1435, approving the audit of fiscal years 2021 financial statement and letters of required communication filed with the state of Michigan by Yo and Yo, and to acknowledge the receipt and file of the previously stated.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Clerk Borba, yes. Trustee Kermy.
Yes.
Trustee Monahan.
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz.
Yes.
Trustee Stewart.
Yes.
Supervisor Heidi.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty, where are we here?
Public comments.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, public comment limited to 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm Dwayne Zanta. I guess all you guys know that since I'm here all the time. I just want to let you know as a point of information, the Wayne 11th Committee will exist until January 1st of next year, or December 31st, either way. I'm on the Wayne County Committee, which is different from that. I've been involved in politics ever since I retired in 2005, and I've never seen hardly any of these candidates. I've only seen Dan Callahan and Chuck Kermy consistently at any Republican event. I've only seen a few of you guys once or twice there, and I'm really concerned that there's candidates on here that really are not involved in the Republican Party that say they are. So anyways, I just wanted to let you know that committee will exist until January 1st, for your information.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, we're going to move on to board comments. Mr. Stewart. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. No, please come forward. Yeah.
Go right up there and speak.
Hold it close so we hear.
Hi, I'm Terry Begas. I want to know what does it take to get a ground feeding ordinance put in for excessive animal feeding? I have a neighbor that has 14 bird feeders. And I live in a suburb, I don't live in the country, and ground feeds. What is it gonna take? Because I have had Dan out, the ordinance guy, for a year. What's it gonna take?
Okay. So
Can one of us help you?
So let me just answer your question briefly. There is no ordinance, as Dan has told you, there is no ordinance regarding excessive feeding of animals or birds or anything of that nature in this community. I know that there are some communities around us. I think Livonia, I know Dearborn Heights does because I wrote it, and it's an excessive bird feeding ordinance. And I'll tell you, the city council was humiliated on that one because people just wanted the freedom to feed birds, and it's so difficult to create that kind of language. So I'm just giving you some historical perspective. I don't know what it's going to take. I mean, and I don't know if the board would entertain an ordinance to limit excessive bird and animal feeding. The best vehicle that we have right now is if in the event that excessive animal feeding results in rats. Because if it's a harborage of rats, or other vermin, as defined by
Does it
ordinance.
have to get to that point?
It may have to, because even if we do an ordinance right now on excessive animal feeding, I don't know what that would look like, and Kevin, I don't know what the, would there be, would the neighbor have a grounds to say that I'm grandfathered in or something like that, in that case?
I would say that the ex post facto provision in the United States Constitution would preclude prosecuting anybody for any acts that occurred before the township, if the township adopted an ordinance. But I would not say that it would be grandfathered in. That's typically limited to zoning ordinances.
So there's also a general nuisance ordinance that we might be able to look at. But then again, then the ordinance officer would have to work with the township attorney to draft a complaint, and then we would end up in court. We typically don't like to go to court on.
I don't either. I don't
ordinance.
want to go to court.
Yeah, because it's a waste of our money and resources. We'd prefer to have compliance. What we try to do is encourage compliance. And I don't know if Dan Adkins has talked to the neighbor.
It's been a year.
Yeah, but.
No.
I mean, again, you're going back to your original question, is there room for us to do an ordinance to this effect? I can't answer that question tonight. I mean,
No, I asked, what is it gonna take? It's gotta happen because it's destroying people's properties and it's gonna wind up in court. I'm trying to avoid it. I've been civil. I am running out of patience. I am getting stressed. I am stressed about it. You need to hear this. That's why I came up here tonight.
Tell me what's going on, a little background. What's happening? You're being overrun by squirrels or?
That, yes, the squirrels look like beavers. They're so fat, but I mean, they're getting a lot of peanut oil, okay? They're not, they're making holes. They don't she's feeding peanut shells, and rats eat those. I don't know if you know that, but rats eat peanut shells. Ants eat peanut shells. I've had ant mounds.
have you seen
They
rats?
dig.
Have you seen rats?
Not yet.
Thank
I don't
goodness.
want to get to yet. I have a nice place and I want to keep it that way.
Okay, tell me some more about.
So what's the
Okay, so
what's the
what they
address?
do is they dig to bury the nuts, cover it up, they sprout. They're ugly as hell.
You mean the plants that come up from the seeds?
Sprouts come up from the seeds.
In your yard?
Yes.
What is the address?
And let me finish. So anyhow, I don't want to go there yet because I have talked to the landlord. It's a renter. And we don't rent. Or nobody else that I'm aware of rents in the neighborhood. Okay? Anyhow, what they do is they dig, they bury, sprout, dig up again. I've got holes in my backyard, and I have done a lot in that backyard. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. So that's one thing. The other thing is she's drawing in rats with wings. Okay, there's 10 different breeds of birds. Birds are not supposed to intermingle to feed. What about bird flu? Does anybody know?
Yeah, there was a recommendation here about 6 weeks ago to stop feeding birds because of the bird flu.
Well, they're gonna get, that's how when they eat like that.
No,
plus
they came from the DNR or
Yes, yeah.
some bird health, Audubon Society, that kind of thing.
When they
Because
eat like that.
they transfer the flu
Yes,
when they have
to
their
other
heads together.
Species, yes. So she's got what I call rats with wings are okay.
You're seeing
we've
some
got-
good varieties of birds. How about hawks? Are the hawks eating them?
I wish. No, I
Eating
saw
the rats?
one day 4
No, they'll
hawks
eat the
and then
birds,
they
the other
took
birds.
off somewhere else. But she's got, now there is in the neighborhood 2 different types of pigeons. We have city pigeons that crap all over the place. Big crap, okay? And when they fly in, they swoop in and it flies. It's all over the side of my neighbor's garage, not just the 2 pigeons. Then there's crow, those are big, okay? Seagulls. These are all garbage eating, and this is.
So they're spending quite a bit of money.
What's your address?
She
I
doesn't
don't
want
want to do that right now because like I said, I just talked to her landlord recently. So I may be back with that, but,
Okay.
you know,
I
for
mean,
right
I
now,
assume,
I'd rather not.
I assume our ordinance officer has been to your property, so.
So he knows the address.
He knows the address.
Yeah.
Dan Atkins,
A
okay.
year ago, yeah.
Oh, a year
He was
ago
out there
was
a
the
year
last
ago?
time he was
We've
there?
been doing this for a year. I talked to the neighbor person one time last July, one and done. That's my thing. I
Okay.
was civil. I said there's animal issues here.
So
let's
our
make-
ordinance officer last took action on this when? 1 year ago or 1 day ago?
Intermittently over the period of a year.
Okay. And when do you think the last contact was made?
With Dan?
Yeah.
About 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so it's pretty fresh.
So Dan talked to the neighbor? Dan Atkins
A
talked to your
while
neighbor?
back, and she's blown him off. She's blown me off.
All right, so.
Okay, so, because what we want to do, again, short of, nobody wants to litigate this, and I don't even know how we would do that yet. But, you know, one of the things we just try to do is encourage being a good neighbor and encouraging compliance. A lot of people just don't know the rules, you know? I mean, Dan Atkins is a former firefighter. He's a nice guy.
I
He's a nice guy.
I like him.
I mean, he can knock on the door and just say, hey, can you?
He did. He drove
can you
up the
tone it?
driveway and 5 squirrels scattered.
Yeah,
He
okay.
left a note on there about rats.
But
and
he can talk with her, and he can, you know, he can maybe get her to tone it down.
It goes nowhere.
Well-
No, she blows him. She blows him off. She
Okay.
blows me off. She doesn't care.
All right, I'm willing to offer this, is that if you want me to go with Dan or you want me to go alone, I will go to the door and speak to the person as a mediator.
I second that motion.
So if you want me to do that, I'll do it. Maybe it will be, we did have luck on one of these last year with me going to a door and we solved the problem.
I asked her recently if she wanted to talk, and she said no.
Was the
Right
landlord
away.
put on notice?
Pardon
Yeah,
me?
she said she
The
talked.
landlord was put on notice?
I sent a certified letter, and it got lost in Detroit, so I had
Well,
to send another one.
why don't we do
UPS
that rather than
was
you?
that I could track. And he
Why don't
got
we
the
do
second
that rather
one.
than you do that, okay? I mean, I
Pardon
think
me?
Dan Atkins can call the landlord. We can do things with the landlord that can get her attention.
Yeah.
So let's, you know, come back after the meeting, grab my card, give us a call. Let's, you and me and Atkins get together first and kind of plot out a strategy. It may involve further intervention by others at this table, but I'd like to
Yeah,
try
you
to
know,
keep it
there's been so
limited.
much divisiveness. I really don't want to cause any more. I
Well-
don't want any more of that garbage.
Okay,
Thank
well-
you. So that's why I was trying to go about it and what would it take to get an ordinance. I know I'm not the Lone Ranger with issues that have to do with this.
Yeah.
I know I'm not.
Those ordinances are, I can tell you from personal experience, they're very difficult to put together and they're really difficult to enforce. And you will also get opposition by others who are basically saying, leave me alone, don't interfere with my private property rights, so.
I've persisted with Dan Atkins in Lake Point. Okay? In other words, he's been out there at least 3 weeks in a row.
Well, he's done all he can do. I'm sorry.
So
He's
give another try in June. Month
Okay.
of June, right now.
Let's go.
And another thing that she blatantly lied to him and said she wasn't ground feeding, and she lied to the landlord and said, I've got photos and videos, she ground feeds.
Okay.
She told me she was just feeding blue jays, that's a lie.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thanks. Give us a call. All right, anybody else? All right, now we will continue with board comments. Mr. Stewart, how are the Tigers doing?
Incredible family support for our new chief of police. And I think it's a wonderful example and role model. I was surprised at the plain candor of the supervisor. I said, where'd you get this guy? This is a few months ago. And he said, Tom Titterington recommended him. But your family here earlier tonight, they are just, they're great people and they're wonderful people. And just say your prayers and say thank you for them.
Thank you. Amen. Mr. Dorchevitz.
Getting ready to, tax season is upon us and things are on schedule. I don't anticipate any major issues, we're just working through them.
Green envelopes will be.
So, So when we went to order the envelopes, they indicated that there was a supply chain problem with blue envelopes. I swear, I'm telling the truth.
No, he got green, you know.
So the choice was to go to green. So I've been accused of favoring green over blue. And I swear that is absolutely not true.
Yeah.
I could not get the blue
Yeah,
envelopes.
they'll probably be white.
Relatively unusual.
There was,
Most communities just use the white.
well, the color of the envelope stands out.
Right. Maybe they'll pay it sooner.
Yeah, well, this community has a good track record of paying.
Yes, we do. All set?
All set.
Okay. And I know it's been a busy couple of weeks for you, but you're doing a great job, so
Thank
we
you.
we really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Coming in and doing a good job. It's like whenever you take a new job, it's kind of like drinking out of a fire hose, everybody tells you that, so, but you've been doing a great job. Jerry?
Yes, as you know, we have election coming up. Okay, we have elections coming up. We sent out about 11,000 absentee ballot request forms, and we've received about 5,000 of them back already. We just received our ballots, but just enough for absentee ballots because of the delay in getting the ballots ready. We won't get the rest of them until later on. So those will probably be mailing those out toward the end of next week. So start looking for those. I know that we mailed out also the required new voter registration cards because of the changes in the districts that has happened. And again, I want to say real quick, thanks to Ginger and Carol, who did a wonderful job on the audit. I think that was just fantastic. Everybody worked hard on that. All the departments had a hand in making sure everything was done properly so that we could come up with a good result. And so thank you very much. Also, when you're looking at your ballots, don't forget to go down ballot. A lot of times people, I'm going to vote for governor, I'm going to vote for president, maybe I'll vote for my congressman, and they don't go down the ballot to the other issues. So make sure you look at your judges, make sure you look at your library board. I mean, the library board is going to be on there. You can still apply for that. You do that at the county. And so that's
What about school board?
And the school board is being handled by Canton. We kind of rotate who handles all those. And you go to Canton, that's already done. You were all done in April for
The
that.
election is in November.
The election's in November, right. And so anything with the schools is handled through the Canton clerk. And we did that for 4 years. The city did it for 4 years. And we just kind of rotate for the school district. And so please pay attention to your down ballot stuff, like the library board.
Okay.
Thank you.
Audrey?
I just wanted to congratulate our new chief of police. It is a testament to have so many family members here. I remember them last time, but I think they grew in number today. I wanted to say thank you to Bob. It can't be easy to go follow into Mark's footsteps. But I was really impressed with some of the information that you sent out to us, and thank you for that. And finally, for all those that made it to the second cut, I just wanted to say thank you for your continued interest. You can see that we're trying to fill that vacancy and being transparent as possible about it. So thank you very much for your continued interest, and have a great evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Kermy?
So we haven't really cut people out. Everybody's still there, right?
Well, I mean, we only came up with 3 names tonight.
Yeah, but people could change their vote again between now and next week or whatever.
So you would pick from one of the other
You could,
people?
right? Or that's what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, yeah.
All right.
Since the process
So
is
nobody's
still.
cut.
All right, I
Since it's still
apologize.
open.
I just thought that.
Well, it's still an open process, so.
Okay,
I mean,
I apologize.
there could have been a cut
Send
tonight,
anyone
but
here.
we didn't go much further.
You whacked them off already.
Oh, my
Anyway.
gosh.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I'm not done yet.
Oh, okay.
Nor is Chuck Kermy.
City of Plymouth, have they given a status on whether they're going to build the sidewalk and when on North Territorial to complete it to the city of Plymouth?
So the sidewalk on North Territorial is the big gap between Sheldon Road and the sidewalk gap that we did. They are, I don't exactly know what their motivation is, but they don't call them sidewalks in Plymouth City. They call them biped unicameral transportation devices or something like that. So I don't know if they're doing that to get more federal money or some other kind of hook that they're trying to get a grant for. So what's happened is they've run into a situation with Wayne County because Wayne County still has the easements there, or some of the easements. So this is what I've been told. And the county is holding them to higher standards than they did to us. So Jeremy's not here, but he can fill you in on the details.
Because they maybe renamed it to something else?
I think it has something to do with the funding. So whether it's federally funded, I know we're using ARPA money, but we're just not, I think that this is part of their whole bike path walkability project. So I think they're using maybe some extra pot of money. So I think they have to comply with some federal standards, and the county's intervened now and said, no, you can't build them like Plymouth Township did. They either have to be wider or straighter or something. But it is a roadblock, and the mayor is very upset about it. I know we're trying to work with his staff and our engineers and their engineers to try to sort this out. But
So it probably won't happen this year.
well, there's still a long season left for sidewalks, but it's more of a bureaucratic snafu than anything else. The money's allocated, they want to do it. I mean, it benefits them really more than us in some cases. So.
Becoming a bureaucratic culture.
Oh, well. Okay, all set.
Byzantine. Anyway, all right.
Okay, so all set. All right, so I'm not done yet. Well, I'm sad for what happened here tonight to the people who put in for the trustee position. And I think it is our responsibility to our constituents, to our voters, that we select somebody within the 45-day window that has been created by the state of Michigan. I ran the numbers, and it looks like that date expires on June 24th or 25th. I believe that if this goes, if we continue to be deadlocked, I disagree, respectfully disagree about the status of the Wayne 11th Republican Committee. I served on that committee for many years. I was the secretary. Shannon Price was the chair, and Chris Rusin was the treasurer. And we had we redid our bylaws, and we knew what we were doing. So whether it's going to be the Wayne 11th or if there's going to be a new Wayne 6, I don't know. I know it is not a. We have various partisan clubs and organizations within our community. I don't believe that they have any legal authority to act in this matter. So at the end of the day, folks, really, no matter who you guys vote for, I think it's incumbent upon us to make that decision. I don't think we should abdicate that position, that responsibility to individuals, whether they be Democrat, Republican, or Libertarian, who come from other communities, who have other special interests outside of Plymouth Township, who have their own political agendas. And unfortunately, the Wayne 11th has already shown its bias by effectively excommunicating Ms. Grieger and Mr. Birmingham. They've declared them non-Republicans. I don't know what statutory authority exists for doing that. Under that standard, Donald Trump could not be a Republican, Ronald Reagan would not be a Republican. So that's, rather than building a big tent, the party seems to be working overtime to exclude people. And that's no way to build a party. More importantly, that's no way to select a trustee. And so I think the Wayne 11th organization has already biased themselves. I think they have already interfered in this process and have perverted the process such that I don't think anybody will be able to get a fair hearing other than the people who they claim to already support. So as I said earlier, this is a messy process. I wish it had been cleaner tonight, but I think we all have strong opinions, and I respect those opinions. But I think that those opinions have to remain at this board, and I don't think we should abdicate those responsibilities to other people in other communities who may not always have the best interests of Plymouth Township at heart. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, but you did diffuse the emotion and drama tonight, and I thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's professionally commendable.
Okay, so there's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second, all those in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Aye, we adjourn.